I feel like a lot of people undermine the importance of mental illnesses, and this is exactly why they should never be taken lightly. Audie Sanchez was a 33-year-old mother of a 3-week-old baby. She had severe mental illnesses but was never given proper care for them. She started to hear voices in her head and became very paranoid. These voices were telling her that she needed to get rid of her baby because the devil was inside of him. Once she started hearing these voices telling her these things, she tried to admit herself into a psychiatric hospital, but they denied her, sent her home with some medication, and told her, hey, you're crazy, but you're gonna have to deal with it by yourself. Audie was aware that these thoughts weren't normal. So when she would feel like she might do something bad to her son, she would give him to her sister. But her sister would give him back to Audie after she thought Audie was good again. Although she knew Audie was having thoughts about harming her own son, she knew about Audie's severe mental illnesses as well. Their whole family did. There were several warning signs, but the baby was never taken out of her care. And this led to a devastating outcome. One night, Audie was staying with her mother and sister after she got in a fight with her baby father. Audie's sister had woken up to some loud screaming. It was Audie screaming after she had cut her son's head off and ate part of his brain. This is part 2 of why you should always take mental illnesses seriously. After Audie Sanchez had decapitated her 3-week-old son and ate part of his brain, she quoted, "I didn't mean to do it. He made me do it," referring to the devil. She first started hearing voices in her head when she took drugs for the very first time. Do not do drugs, kids. I'm telling you, you're gonna end up decapitating somebody. The saddest part about all of this is that this could have been prevented and that baby could have still been alive if people would have taken her mental illness seriously. Literally just 6 days before this happened, she had met with the counselor and told them that she had voices in her head telling her to harm her own baby. The counselor claimed this was her postpartum psychosis, which is when a mother responds negatively to her pregnancy, sometimes feeling like she needs to harm her child. The counselor did report that Audie needed mental evaluation, but the hospital didn't see the severity of the situation because the counselor failed to mention that Audie was hearing voices specifically telling her to harm her own child. Once they evaluated her, they concluded that she just heard voices and had hallucinations. In court, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Story time about how I'm hopelessly in love with my boss and I'm about to be a homewrecker, but help me! Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So I've been working for my boss for 3 months. He's in the tech world and he makes lots of money, and he hired me as a personal assistant. He's got a wife and 3 kids. They've been married for 15 years, and he's 18 years older than I am. One day my friend told me that this guy was looking for a personal assistant, and I applied for the job. I had my first interview, and right away I was super attracted to him, and I could tell that he was attracted to me. Like, you know, when you like someone and, you know, there's just a vibe between you guys. He then called me in for a second interview, and in this interview we basically spoke about everything he would want me to do and what the job entailed. I mostly had to run his schedule and set up meetings for him with clients and different things like that. So it's not like I was getting him his laundry or running errands for him. A few days later he calls me and tells me that I got the job. He offered me a lot of money, more than it was advertised at the beginning when I went for the interview. So I took the job. But here's the thing. From the time I did my first interview, I had not stopped thinking about this man. Like, I already had feelings for him before I even started working for him. So I decided to dress really cute for my first day, and he noticed. I mean, I was playing this man like a fiddle. My goal was to get him to fall for me. After the first week, he asked me to go to lunch with him to celebrate the fact that I had been doing a good job. Of course, I said yes. Went to this beautiful restaurant and had wine. We then went back to his office and I went home. Later on, he sends me a text message saying that he's so proud of me for doing such a good job. Fast forward a few weeks, I kept flirting, he kept flirting back. Finally, at the end of the month, we went to another lunch. This is when he opened up to me and told me that he was attracted to me. I told him I was attracted to him too. After my first month of working there, he took me out to lunch and decided to tell me that he was attracted to me. So of course, I confessed to him that I was attracted to him as well. I mean, duh, it was so obvious. At this point, I had done everything in my power to make him fall in love with me. I wore the cutest outfits, always did my hair and makeup. If I went to Starbucks, I would always get him a drink as well, and I would even bring him home-cooked meals sometimes. So in other words, I went out of my way to make him see that I am totally wifey material. And yes, I was always aware that he was married and had kids, but he didn't look happy with his wife. She never came to the office, and they never spent any time together. And according to him, she had an affair last year, and he's pretty sure that she's back with the guy that she was having an affair with. First, I didn't know whether to believe him or not, but then he showed me screenshots of messages that she had sent to this guy. That's when he asked me if I wanted to go have lunch again. Then he asked me to go to the movies, and we made out the entire time. So I'm sitting there making out with my boss. That's when he tells me that we have to keep this hush-hush, because if the company finds out, he will be in major trouble and so will I. But he's a high earner in the company, so he can't be messing around. This would ruin his life. Ever since the first kiss, he basically treats me like his work girlfriend. And every day for lunch, we go out to a restaurant just to get to know each other. It's the only time we have together. About a week ago, he asked me if I would be willing to marry him if he divorced his wife. I said yes right away, but honestly, I'm not sure if I want him to leave his wife for me. And his kids. I never thought of myself as a homewrecker. Well, because I said yes, he said that we should try to find a way to tell his wife. I mean, I don't even want to meet this woman, and he wants both of us to talk to her. I told him we should wait at least a few months before we do that. That's when he got me a new apartment. That way, when he leaves his wife, he's already got a place to stay. And of course, he wants to live with me right away. It's a luxury apartment and I love it. So now that he got me my new luxury apartment, which I'm totally in love with, by the way, I have a sauna in my shower. He wants us to plan out how we're gonna tell his wife. Like I said in part 2, I don't know if I want him to leave his wife for me. I mean, I see a future with him, but do I really want him to leave his wife and his kids for me? He even wants to start planning the wedding. He wants to move in together right away, plan the wedding, and get married. He promises me that his kids will love me and that his wife won't have a problem because she's already having an affair with someone else. But I feel like that's just him being hopeful and it's really not going to be that easy. So I opened up to my family and I told them what's going on. My mom told me that as long as he leaves his wife and everything is good with the kids, then we should feel free to be together. But ultimately, she doesn't want me to be a homewrecker. I definitely feel like things are going way too fast. I mean, tomorrow we're gonna go taste a bunch of cakes at a really nice bakery. Oh yeah, and he even took me shopping for a wedding ring. He wants to buy me one that's $40,000. It's 3.2 carats. So unfortunately, now that I told my family, a few cousins found out what was happening. And one of my cousins reached out to my ex. She told him what was happening and he called me to ask me not to marry this guy. He says we can work on our relationship. But let me tell you, this ex was totally toxic. He would monitor everything I would do. He never let me have friends, and he didn't even allow me to have Instagram. Oh yeah, and he's kind of broke. I mean, I was the one paying for most of the stuff in the relationship, so I don't even know if I want to open that can of worms again. But part of me thinks he's right. Like, I shouldn't be rushing into this. But on the other hand, I found myself a wonderful man. He's so loving, caring, so generous, and he's actually super fun to be with too. I've never felt more secure in a relationship before, and I know that most women would love to be with him too. What do you guys think I should do?
Am I the asshole for saying, "I'll see you there," to my ex's aunt after telling me I'm going to hell? My ex's aunt and uncle helped my ex care for our child on his time. Aunt is deeply religious and loves to preach to anyone and tell non-religious people they are going to hell if they don't find salvation and get into praying. But I'm not religious, and I don't care if others are. Aunt has been telling my child that mommy is going to hell and will never go to heaven because I don't go to church and pray like she does. I had mostly brushed that off and told my child that mommy will be okay. My ex is an atheist and I doubt she says the same about him. So unfair. My ex's aunt has now also started saying it to my face that I'm going to hell as well. I was feeling extra cheeky, so I gave her my best smile and said, "Wonderful, I'll see you there." Okay, so obviously the aunt found this incredibly disrespectful and offensive as she has dictated her entire life to the church. So I'm really just wondering, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for getting mad and embarrassing my fiance for wetting the bed after drinking too much? So last night my fiance was drinking. Well, they got pretty smashed, and before he got into bed I told him to go to the bathroom and that if he pissed in my bed, he would have to buy me a new one. I got to sleep at about 4 a.m. Then I'm woken up by getting sprinkled on. I'm obviously not happy. It's now 5:29 and he's mad at me for griping at him. I ushered him to the bathroom and gave him a towel, changed my pajamas and pillowcase, luckily it didn't go through, and then cleaned up the piss off the toilet and floor. He's mad at me because I embarrassed him about pissing on the bed and on me. He says he would never do that if I bled the sheets because of my period. And then I'm like, but my period wasn't caused by my choice to drink too much. So, am I really the asshole for getting mad and making him feel embarrassed for pissing on me and the bed? I really don't understand why he's so mad, and he keeps calling me the asshole. So, I'm just wondering, am I actually the asshole? Am I the asshole for choosing not to help my girlfriend after she got hurt on a bike when I previously warned her? Well, she wanted to try mountain biking, and I told her it was a bad idea and that she should not go. Told her she's going to hurt herself knowing it is her first time. Well, she went against what I was saying and decided to go with her friends anyways. Well, sure enough, she got hurt. She fractured her wrist and broke her leg. Now she's nagging me to help her around the apartment. She wants me to help her with things like cooking more for us and helping her in the shower. She's more than capable, but it just takes more time and effort to get it done, and I don't see the need to help her. I really don't think I have to adjust around her current condition, and I really feel like it's fair game to just not help her, because I told her not to. She really doesn't understand why I'm not helping her, even though I've told her why. She's telling me that I'm the asshole, so I'm wondering, am I an asshole for not helping my girlfriend after I told her not to get on that bike?
A young girl walked into the tattoo shop, and she said, "I'm turning 18 years old tomorrow, and I want to prank my dad. I'll pay you $100 to do it. I've been to 3 other shops and none of them will help me." And I said, "Well, I'm your guy because I love pranks." So she tells me the plan. And I'm like, this is fantastic. It'll get him for sure. So the next day, she comes back in with her mother. And we set up for a fake tattoo, and we set everything up to where it's realistic looking as possible. I've set up both machines, I've got inks out, I've got everything done. It looks like it's a real tattoo. And so I call her dad and I say, is she here? And he says, no. And why are you calling? And I said, well, that's all right, I'll just call her on her number. And I hang up the phone. Well, clearly he had seen that the call was coming from a tattoo shop, and so he immediately calls her back and says, where are you? And she says, well, I'm at a tattoo shop and I'm with a friend who's getting a tattoo. And so he hears her struggling over her words, and he immediately says, well, I'm coming to the shop, and he hangs up the phone. And so when he pulls up, the mother goes and hides in the bathroom, and he walks in and he sees the daughter getting a tattoo, and he looks at it. He's really frustrated and angry and upset, and he says, listen, what's done is done. This isn't okay, but I'm not the one who's going to have to deal with your mother. And right then the mother walks out of the bathroom, and he says, you knew this was going on? I can't believe you would do this behind my back. And his face is getting redder, and he grabs his chest and he says, I think I'm having a panic attack. And he sits down, and then he sits on the ground, and he's grabbing his chest, and his face is turning redder and redder. And he lays back and says, I can't breathe. And at this point, I'm panicking. I'm like, hey, anybody got an aspirin? Does he take nitroglycerin? What's going on? Well, then he lays back on the ground, and he rolls back his eyes, and he lets out his last breath. And everybody's freaking out. And then he opens his eyes and says, you can't get me. I'm still the king.
Am I the asshole for not going to my brother's wedding? My little brother is getting married to a girl he's only known for about a year, and in that time, they've been engaged for about 9 months. In that time, she's broken up with him, and they've called off the wedding 4 times, and there's a strong reason to believe that she's cheated on him during those times. My family and I, husband, 16-month-old, and a 3-year-old, are living across the country temporarily, but normally live in the same state as him, and where the wedding is happening. My husband can't take off work for basically a week to go to a wedding, and I don't feel comfortable traveling across the country with my 2 babies by myself. My little one still nurses to sleep, and we all co-sleep, so without me, I don't think anyone will be getting any sleep. So his wedding is scheduled for the day after my anniversary, and this will be our 5-year. I've told my brother this and asked if he can just reschedule for January when we'll be home, but he says he can't. And this was before they hired photographers, caterers, etc. He says he understands and that it's fine, but I hate that I won't be there. So am I the asshole for not going? Am I the asshole for upsetting my mom by telling her I wanted to try wearing a skirt? My family is generally more conservative, closed, traditional Christian household. My mom is especially more reserved, while my dad is more open to change. It used to be the same until recently I realized I was bisexual. Today at breakfast, my sisters were talking about how it's okay for guys and girls to wear makeup as long as they're happy and they can do whatever they want. The conversation began diverging towards how I would look good if I painted my nails, and although my mom looked a bit taken back, she still seemed okay with the conversation, and then I brought up how I wanted to try wearing a skirt, and my mom's expression dropped. My dad took it pretty lightheartedly, but when I asked my mom what was wrong, she responded in a darker tone, and she said that I thought I'd never wear one. After her mood seemed to go down and stay down, later my sister said I shouldn't have said anything, that her mom isn't comfortable around that topic. I tried reasoning with both of them, and they both just told me I need to learn how to shut up. So, did I really do anything wrong by telling my mom I wanted to start wearing a skirt, and am I actually the asshole in this situation? Am I the asshole for not calling my stepmom mom anymore? I'm 18, recently found out through my elder cousin's brother that my stepmother is not actually my mom, and that my biological mom died while giving birth to me. My dad remarried my stepmom when I was about 9 months old, and she has been raising me as if I'm her biological child ever since. After I got to know about this, I confronted my dad and he told me everything. I was very hurt that he didn't tell me about it, and that I never even knew about my actual mom. Although I do respect my stepmom and appreciate her for what she's done for me all these years, I cannot call her mom. It hurts me every time and makes me extremely uncomfortable. I don't really refer to her as anything. Whenever I talk to her, I don't use mom or her first name. After a couple of days, she must have realized I don't really refer to her as mom anymore, and told my dad. Yesterday, my dad had a talk with me about this, and he told me it made her cry. So, am I really the asshole for not calling my stepmother mom anymore because of everything that has happened? Am I the asshole for wanting my partner to contribute to vacation costs? I am a parent of 2 school-age kids. From a previous marriage, and my partner is childless.